Welcome in, everyone, to another edition of Ohio State Buckeyes live right here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by. You know the deal. Comments and questions are welcome. Super chats we would appreciate. And certainly we will take your calls with a super chat contribution near the end of the show as well. So keep that in mind if you want to talk directly to Steve, Tony, myself. Who's this guy that crashed the party?
Oh,
we got up here.
Nuna.
Kevin Noon, everyone. Welcome, Kevin.
Yeah, first time, long time. Oh, wait, no, I did this show for several years. Need a little break, and I'm back. So don't piss me off, or I'll leave for another couple years.
Steve, what did you say? Tony? It couldn't have been me.
Very happy.
All right, very good, folks. Again, comments and questions. We're talking Buckeye football. Of course, we are just about a month away from Big Ten Media Days and then off into August camp. So it's right around the corner. We're going to talk some national championship odds, recruiting, and some more productive things toward 2025 and beyond. But we're going to start with this one. Of course, the news is out. Most of you, if not all, know what happened over the weekend. Former Ohio State offensive lineman Kirk Barton, 2003 to 07, All-American, All-Big Ten player, one-count vehicular homicide, found intoxicated, driving on the wrong side of the road, 3 a.m. on Saturday morning, struck and killed a 24-year-old man, Ethan Perry. Barton had slight injuries, $500,000 bond, cannot drink or leave the area until his court date next month. Yes, he's got a previous record. His lawyer is trying to say that there's not a pattern here. And of course, the mother of Ethan Perry is devastated. And I've seen a couple just horrendous clips of her or quotes by her in response to all this. So, Steve, we don't need to belabor this because everyone should be on board just in regards to the loss of life here is just atrocious and the actions that preceded it.
Yeah, very unfortunate situation, and our heart goes out to Ethan Perry's family and his mother. She's obviously grieving, and he was working as a technician in a car dealership near Grove City, and had really kind of carved out a life for himself. And I don't know, any of the details about what he was doing that evening, but obviously, what you said about what Kirk Barton was up to does not sound, very good. Obviously, I have never yet heard if they took a blood sample or got him to blow and get what the blood alcohol level was. I don't know if that's been reported, and I guess that'll be one key piece of this. But 3 a.m. Obviously very, very late to be out. And again, this is a hot button issue in our society, drinking and driving. And we definitely, don't condone that, certainly in any way, shape, or form. It's very unfortunate that, that this is going to be Kirk's, potential, his legacy. He was a guy, a very bright guy when I first dealt with him 25 years ago as a new player at Ohio State, a prospect, a guy that Jim Bowman, handpicked to come and play at Ohio State. And I think he ended up starting 3 seasons, if not 4. He may have started parts of 4 seasons at tackle, played at, in national championship situations, the Florida game for certain, I think the LSU game as well. So was on, great teams, won however many years he was there. He was a Big Ten champion other than 04 and 03, I suppose, but 5, 6, 7, he would have been a Big Ten champion. And, they won a lot of meaningful games. At Texas, one of them, obviously. So, just unfortunate. He's worked here in the Columbus area for much of the time since his playing career was over. And a lot of people know that he was a contributor to another Ohio State website. And just unfortunate. And hopefully his wife and kids are able to get through this as well. So we'll wait and see what happens with the justice system. my one experience with this is somebody I was acquainted with years ago did the same exact thing, drunk driving and killed somebody, and only got like 2 or 3 years in prison. And you think, boy, that doesn't sound like a lot given the circumstances. But I guess we'll see what justice metes out in this instance.
Well said, Steve. So we will wait and see exactly. Yes. All right, on to football. And again, the comments and questions are welcome, and super chat contributions. We understand that not everyone's in a position to give a super chat, but understand the contributions of these three. And I try to add a little bit myself. All right. Wrapped up the camps as of this time last week, but there has been a commit. Glenville High School out of Cleveland has obviously been a good history with Ohio State football, and Sincere Johnson is a top 100 player according to 247 Sports. The linebacker at 6'3", 240. So, Steve, do you want to start us out there with Sincere Johnson?
Obviously, Cleveland Glenville, pipeline school for Ohio State over the last 25 years, and it's starting to open up again. The Buckeyes will be starting a linebacker, Arvell Reese, from there this coming season. And, you look at it, it kind of dipped down a little bit. The last 5 or 10 years wasn't quite as profitable for Ohio State, but now the Buckeyes are back in business with Glenville High School, and a very promising prospect, Sincere Johnson. He was at Ohio State's camp a week or two ago, working directly with the linebackers coach James Laurinaitis, national top 100 player. I think there is some sentiment, does he stay at linebacker? He was adamant on Twitter that he is a linebacker, and we'll see how long that lasts, because if he puts some weight on that 6'3" frame, he could easily drop down and play defensive end. I'm open to whatever he does, just as long as he is a contributor to the Ohio State defense is all that matters. I'm sure that's all Matt Patricia, James Laurinaitis, and the group are thinking about with Sincere Johnson, but just a very bright kid. And I just think the sky's the limit, I think, for Sincere Johnson and what he's going to be able to do at the college level. I'm interested, these guys are at the camp as well and watched him perform, and interested to hear more about what they think as well.
Kevin.
Yeah. Steve kind of hit the nail on the head talking about Arvell Reese. There's a lot of Arvell Reese in Sincere Johnson. I hate doing comps, and I'm not going to come back after taking a year off from the show or whatever it is and start, day one by talking about comparisons. But I think it's a fair comparison. To Steve's other point about him, already kind of being a biscuit short of dropping down to the line. I mean, yeah, you could sit there and say, well, CJ Hicks was a linebacker, and now he's finally sliding down to edge position. Do they see something? Well, we've not seen a minute of Sincere Johnson in a collegiate situation. I think he could play at 240. I mean, it's just a matter of how his body reacts to the strength and conditioning program. But I think Arvell Reese really kind of opened the door for what this type of player is. I mean, remember, with Ohio State playing a 4-2-5, you're having 33% less linebackers out there on the field. So, you need to be able to do a lot of things within the system. We've not seen necessarily what Matt Patricia's massage of the defense is going to be coming off of the Jim Knowles defense. But, I think this is a big get, and we always like, oh, such and such is better when so-and-so is good. I think that Ohio State recruiting is better when Cleveland Glenville has prospects, and Cleveland Glenville does have prospects now, and I think Sincere Johnson is, a really strong one. And, this was just a big get, and I had to laugh whenever anybody's like, could Sincere Johnson get away? I'm like, not in this lifetime, at least not in Ted Ginn Sr.'s lifetime. It just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, well, in terms of like where will he play, let's not forget, I think the first week that Arvell Reese was on practicing, he was almost immediately moved to defensive end, and there was a basically numbers were an issue. There may have been another injury, so they had to move him because they didn't need him at linebacker right away. So he played defensive end as a freshman, but never really played. He didn't see any time on defense. He played only special teams. So he could get moved at some point. But we also, as Kevin said, we don't know what Matt Patricia's defense is going to be. It could end up being like a 3-3-5 where he's a rush linebacker, but he's very athletic. He covers a lot of ground. As somebody else said, like he hits hard, and he is 6'3", and you say 240 or whatever. They'll play their linebackers at 235, and pretty much that's where they like them. So he can get wherever he needs to be. And right now, I think Arvell Reese is listed at like 6'4", 238, and he's a big linebacker. Sincere Johnson is just a little bit smaller than Arvell Reese, so he is also a big linebacker, but a good get. And we'll know more once they get him on campus and what this defense looks like, because there will be some changes.
Once again, that's Sincere Johnson, linebacker out of Glenville at currently 6'3", 240 is the listing there. And we're talking a top 80 recruit nationally, regardless of position, top 10 at his position. Kevin, anything on the forecast in regards to who might be next off the board, or who the big targets are that would really put a topping on this class?
Well, who would put a big topping on this class? There are a lot of kids who are deciding in the next 3 weeks. And, I think even by the end of this weekend, we'll have an idea of where the class is. And there are just too many names, and I can't remember all of them to go through everybody who is making a decision. Aaron Thomas, the 6'7", 300-pound offensive tackle out of Phoenix, Arizona, is supposed to announce tonight. That one's kind of been going back and forth. He took an official to Ohio State. Everything sounded super positive. And then he took a visit to Texas A&M, and some of those prediction thingamajiggers started to come in for A&M, and people started to freak out and jumped off the ship. But it seems like the ship has kind of righted itself now. I believe that's going to be at like 9 Eastern. He lives in Arizona, the one state that doesn't follow daylight savings. I think now they're on Pacific, so I think it's going to be like 9 Eastern for us to get that. But another name I'd keep an eye on as well is quarterback Luke Fahey out of Mission Viejo, California. He's a 3-star quarterback who really is down to Ohio State, Stanford. Indiana was right there in the mix, but Indiana just picked up a commitment. I think that one could really kind of happen at any point. I don't know if he necessarily has a plan as to pick, but he did come out and delivered a quote of, it would be really hard to say no to Ohio State. Well, we've heard that quote before and seen kids subsequently say no to Ohio State, but I don't think that's going to be the case there. But those are a couple of the next kids. But, when it comes to Ohio State, I think defensive line recruiting is very important. Offensive line recruiting, I mean, obviously there's going to be Fort Wayne receiver is supposed to make an announcement, I think, either Friday or over the weekend. That would be a 5th receiver. Once again, Brian Hartline doing Brian Hartline things. But, I think that everybody has kind of gotten off on a little bit of a misnomer, thinking that with going up to 105 scholarships or whatever, that Ohio State was going to fund 105 scholarships, and that's not going to be the case. I don't even know if Ohio State's going to go to 25 players in this class. So, just, for every kid that doesn't pick Ohio State, and this isn't me trying to correct history or anything, but for every kid that doesn't pick Ohio State, don't look at it as like, oh no, the sky is falling. I thought we were national champions. What the hell? You just got to fit the pieces in right.
We appreciate some super chats coming in here. Jackson, our guy Jackson. So Jackson, we're going to save this one maybe to the end of the show, since it's episode 325. Historic episode 325. That must be a magical number for some reason. Yes. May we get a backstory of how each of you guys met each other? Again, we will save that one for the back of the show. But Jackson, we do appreciate it. Ryan Dawes, thank you so much for becoming a member. We have 3 tiers of membership, folks. Sorry, I'm caught off guard. I couldn't even tell you what the names of the membership tiers are or what they entail, but it's great stuff, I'm sure. I know it. I just know it. So check out the membership tiers And there are little catchy names we have asked the show hosts to come up with regarding that particular school. So I'm sure it has to do with, I think one of them has to do with the JT Barrett stretch toward the first down against Michigan in 2016. So that's about all I've got for you. But again, membership tiers are available. Ryan was able to find them. So there you go. Ryan, thank you so much for that. And speaking of which, we appreciate your contribution. Ryan, with Big Ten Media Days rapidly approaching, is there anyone that you guys are looking forward to hearing from, talking to, other than Big Brett Bielema? I know you guys love him already.
You know, as I was reading that, I'm like, well, the first answer is Brett Bielema, and then I saw like other than Brett. It's like, okay, like people. I don't think people remember back when Brett Bielema was the Wisconsin head coach. This would be the best day, like every year, because he would come out and accuse Ohio State of something. Like he would accuse Jim Tressel of something. He would accuse Urban Meyer of something, and then later in the day or later in the week, Barry Alvarez would apologize for what Brett Bielema just said, and then Brett Bielema went to the SEC, got humbled a little bit, but you're starting to see the old Brett Bielema come out, and I love it. I love having him back in the Big Ten and doing well, which makes it even better. A couple of people that I always enjoy talking to are Bill Carollo, the rules official, in terms of, why are you guys thinking this way on this rule? What rules are you changing? Just because he'll sit and talk to you for an hour about minutia. And then the other kind of minutia I like is grabbing they'll let you talk to the TV execs. Sometimes they'll be like the CBS guys will be sitting in the lunchroom and you can go talk with them and try to get stuff out of them about the TV draft. And they'll give you a little bit, but they don't want to give you too much. They don't want to get too in depth about it. And they're like, why do you even care? And it's like, I just do. It's dumb. I
hate the freaking night or noon games.
Yeah.
That's why we care.
And so, talking to those guys, and Ohio State, I don't know that nobody said who has who's going yet. I asked the Big Ten for a schedule like last week. They're like, no idea yet in terms of who's talking when, because they don't know the schools are still have not submitted everything. I'm wondering who you guys think you guys can answer this the question, the super chat, but I'm wondering who Ohio State will be sending to this one. I assume Sonny Styles will be one. But I don't know who else, because I'm just trying to think of the seniors. And
Caleb Downs.
I think we'd probably get Caleb Downs because
he doesn't like doing that stuff, though.
Well,
you're going to have to step out of his shell.
Not liking to do stuff in Indianapolis and not liking to do stuff in Vegas are two very different things.
And if you
St. Elmo is fantastic, but there are some really nice steakhouses in Vegas. And, if you sit there and you tell me I'm going to be able to go to like Tom Colicchio's restaurant or something like that, I'm suddenly going to be like, oh, I'll talk about paint drying on the wall.
If you want him to win the Heisman Trophy, I think Jeremiah Smith needs to be there on the national forefront and do an interview with everybody that's there. I think that's, he's the number one player in the country. He should be at the Big Ten Media. I think it's a pretty easy 3-man group. I mean, they don't have a lot of seniors to choose from who are in positions that of any kind of influence. So, I mean, Downs is certainly a captain, I would think, even though he's only been there 2 years. And same with Styles, of course, being a full-time, player there. But offensively, who would even be a captain on this team? I don't even know. But, you could do Hinson or,
Do you go and try to put the best stories and try to win awards here in Jerry Emig's final year as Ohio State Sports Information Director, or do you go the path of least resistance and who's not going to say something stupid? And I'm hoping here in the last year that in this NIL world that that to Steve's point that they do bring Jeremiah. But I mean, hell, you could bring Carson Hinsman and you could bring I don't know. You could bring Kenyatta Jackson, and you could do a lot of things of where. And I'm not saying that we've necessarily seen Kenyatta Jackson get to the most trusted nation status in terms of not saying anything, but they could really just go sideways and not give us anybody to connect the dots and put any stories. And okay, maybe I'm being a little jaded in saying that they would do that on purpose, but I've been doing this a long time, and sometimes we don't necessarily get guys that fit into stories. So yeah, you've got a diversity of stories because none of the three guys necessarily connect, but you can't put together a good flowing story. To Ryan's point, I'm looking forward to talking to Lincoln Riley because this could be his last Big Ten media days. I'm looking forward to talking to whoever the representative for that team up north is. I know it's a month. We probably won't get any sort of additional suspensions handed down in the next 4 weeks, but that'll be interesting. And I also just, after talking to Dan Lanning last year, and every question I asked him, he looked at me like I had a giant arm growing out of the top of my head because he didn't like any question I asked him. I'm looking forward to round 2.
Dan Lanning, are you glad that they've changed the seating for the playoff? That would probably be the question for him. Yeah, there's a lot of personalities, that are there that would be interesting. I think what's also interesting, there's a lot of guys coaching at some of these schools that you honestly have to look it up and see who it is. Like Washington, UCLA. Who else? Purdue, Illinois used to be like that, but then they hired Bielema. There's one more that I don't know who the coach is.
It sounds like you need to read the Phil Steele magazine.
Northwestern, who's the coach there?
David Braun.
David
I
Braun.
could name all of them. I don't know anything beyond that. I know who all the coaches are.
You're ahead of me. There's one more that I'm thinking is nameless, faceless too, but I can't remember.
I assumed we had a show where
Michigan
knew
State.
the Big Ten coaches.
Michigan State, Jonathan Smith.
Jonathan Smith, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I always enjoy talking to Matt Rule. He's very down to earth and very open, and PJ Fleck will give you really good answers. So
do not like that guy.
I mean,
he's so exhausting. Seriously, he is so exhausting. I guess that if you're an upbeat, fun person like Tony, then you can enjoy it. But when you're a miserable, sad sack like me, it just takes the joy out of life.
Matt Rule, is this the year Nebraska starts winning close games and gets back into the top 25 after a quarter century of complete nothingness? No. And then Kevin says no. Well, they got that Raiola. He's interesting.
James Franklin is always good as well.
Well, and with him, it's can you win it? They're predicting you number 2 in the country in the 2 main magazines, other than Phil Steele. Can you win a big game? Can you win a game at Ohio State that you need to win to get into the Big Ten championship game?
Nobody can beat SMU.
Everything else that goes along with it.
And what is Kirk Cignetti going to say this week or this year? Because he's going to have something to say because people are dismissing him and dismissing Indiana. And last year was an aberration. Like, go up. $20 either one of you. What's that?
Is their roster down a little bit? Did they lose a ton of guys? Or
they also brought in a bunch of guys. They still have some of their guys from last year.
They brought in a lot of 1-year rentals. But they still have some others. And then now that he doesn't have the immediate tie to James Madison, he went and hit the portal a little wider. Yeah, I couldn't tell you, between the 22 listed in the magazine, how many they're returning. I'm going to say it's probably something like, I don't know,
16.
16. Jesus, I had no idea. That's a team.
The quarterback, obviously.
Yeah, no Curtis Rourke, and then like the guy that they had, Donovan McCulley, who was supposed to be kind of their next guy. He's a receiver at Michigan now.
Yeah,
I'll say this. Phil Steele says there's 16, but I believe he is counting starters that transferred in from other places because he's also saying the quarterback returning is a starter, which Mendoza is not, but he started at Cal, so he's got starting experience. But
I didn't know he did it that way.
I think this is new. Do it these days.
I think this would be new the way he's doing it. So
we're at a different time with the portal and just so many transfers. I think that you have to. I think this is a place where you have to kind of adjust the way that you do your accounting on there. So I ain't mad at it. I don't know if it's necessarily, completely, genuine, but I ain't mad at it.
Wisconsin with Luke Fickell, are you on the hot seat? I mean, it's been an underwhelming couple of years there for the Meanders. And they've got the Buckeyes coming to town. They had, wherever we were last year on the road game, we sat there and agonized through that Oregon-Wisconsin game, and Oregon slips on a banana peel and wins by like 3 at the end or whatever.
We were in Chicago. Sitting in a bar. It was Northwestern and the Wrigley game, and we were sitting. We couldn't find anywhere to eat, and we were sitting in that bar, and we had to beg them to turn on the game.
Yeah.
Because there was like something else going, another major sporting event going on at the time. Oh, there was like a UFC fight.
What part of Chicago were we in for that? Were we downtown?
We're downtown. We
by
were
our hotel.
Like Miracle Mile area.
Yeah, that was weird. Yeah, we had a hard time finding a place that we could get seated to get.
And I got those gyros that were really good.
Yeah.
Which, of course, makes it sound like I drank more than I did that night. I just was craving a gyro. I just self-loathing or something. I don't know.
I would go back there for the help. That was what was remarkable about that place was the people that were working there.
Every one of them was a 6-foot Eastern European.
Yeah, it was kind of like, is this a front for human trafficking? What is this? That was kind of weird, but yeah, I don't know. It was something.
I will say, in terms of Indiana, road games at Iowa, Oregon, and Penn State are not
loss.
conducive to returning to the playoffs this year. That's
Tony. You were going to offer up $20 of your own money on something, so
yeah.
I want to know how I can. I want to win Tony. I want to win Tony's money.
Anybody can win at Iowa, but I think anybody
even
can lose
Purdue
there.
can win at Iowa if they just can kick a couple field goals. I mean, shit.
I'll just ask. I'll give either one of you $20 if you ask Kurt Signetti at some point. Basically like. Ask the question in such a way as like, so with the playoffs not going to happen this year, what's a good finish for you guys? Like are you hoping for a New Year's Day bowl? And then after he gets done berating you, I will hand you my $20 in front of him.
Goodness.
Okay.
Back on.
Let me think about it. That's a hand of blackjack. So let me think about it.
Yeah.
Now we're in Vegas. We'll do anything.
Vegas.
For money.
Yeah. Do you know what's neat is that we get a clock out at 5 p.m. and we can wild all the way until about 4 or 5 a.m. the next day. And we got to get ourselves straightened up to
Steve, I've seen you closing your eyes at like the dinner table when we've been on the road. Don't make it sound like you're going to be wilding till 4 Pacific. Come on,
working
man.
out. I'm going to start doing some endurance training and, lift a couple weights and, whatever. Back on Wisconsin, the whole Tony thing about Barry Alvarez. I was sitting at a bar, Ike and Jonesy's in Indianapolis at the bar, and there's Barry Alvarez down there at the end of the bar holding court. He's got a tumbler of, ice and some vodka or whatever, whiskey in his little tumbler glass sitting there at the end. And I just ambled over to him. I said, I got to ask you a question. It's like, you've got, you got Brett Bielema, who was your best guy, and then you got Bo Ryan. And I'm like, do you ever say anything to him? I mean, he seems so intense, like he wouldn't take orders or direction from anybody. And I said, what is the secret to your success in the 2 main sports? You're winning Big Tens, all over the place with these 2 guys. And he just sat there, took a big gulp of his whiskey and said, great direction. It's what he said.
I was there with you at the old historic I&J, and it was.
Yes. And they said they were renovating the building and going to put apartments there. They haven't done a goddamn thing with that building, and somebody could have taken that bar over and made something out of it. That's just ridiculous.
Well, they closed the Irish. The Claudia is gone too, and everything
There's a
else.
nightclub there now, but.
Not that I would know what's going on in Indianapolis, since my annual December trip has been put on hiatus for several years.
Till further notice, no Indianapolis for you. I think, and they said the Big Ten basketball this year will be in Chicago, so no Indianapolis. Even though I think the tournament's in Chicago too this year. I know you guys don't care about basketball.
Next topic. No, but in terms of Jeremiah Smith being at Media Days, who was the last Ohio State sophomore to ever go? Because I can't think of one.
Well, maybe JT. I don't know.
Barrett would have been my guess. And I mean, again, somebody, oh, he was on a leadership council as a freshman
Mhm.
or whatever. Well, does that mean that you're going to go? I mean, I think it really comes down to what the strategy is. And I think that if Ohio State is serious about making a push, and Jerry, if you're watching this, you need to make him more available in these types of settings. I mean, it's Jeremiah Smith. He's an alien, but he's also like 5 million years old in his alien ways. He's not going to say something stupid. I mean, I think that it would be a major misstep if they did not bring him there. But you know,
Well,
look at the receiver room. You know who really doesn't like doing this stuff is Carnell Tate. And with just everything that's kind of happened in Tate's life, I wouldn't put him in that position. Now, if he wanted to go and do it, then, I would certainly give him the opportunity as an elder statesman on the team. But I would much rather, if I were trying to tap guys and say, hey, you're the one that I want to send out to Vegas for this, it would be JJ.
I'll just say this because I'm looking back in 2014 when JT Barrett was a second-year player, they sent Braxton because Braxton was still the starter. In 2015, they still didn't send JT Barrett when he was a third-year guy. So I'm not expecting a sophomore to go, even if he is the best player in the nation. However, if there's going to be an exception, it would be Jeremiah Smith.
I'm reading through the comments, and Garrison said that Todd McShay said that Downs misses a lot of tackles. I got to tell you, if he doesn't tackle the Penn State tight end on third down in the flat, that's a losable game, no doubt about it, because they're going to go down and score probably. So that one play alone, I mean, there were many, many others, but my God, the Texas play. I mean, come on, get the heck out of here.
Is McShay still a thing? I mean, I'm
I
not
don't know
trying
who
to
he
be.
works for.
I'm not trying to be ugly, but I mean, is that still a thing? Because
I don't know.
I never see. Granted, I avoid ESPN like the plague for draft
He's
coverage.
not. He's not on ESPN.
Well, I watch NFL Network, and the only way to get me off of watching NFL Network is if they brought him in. But I mean, okay, if you say so, buddy. But that's also like the guy that's out there that's trying to point out that Jeremiah Smith did not have a big game against Texas, therefore he has a giant hole in his swing. I mean, it's just asinine.
Well, I will say, I think Caleb Downs missed some tackles early in the season, and then I don't know that he missed another one after that. Like, he started a little bit slowly compared to what the expectations were, but then after that, he's fine. I think the one thing that I question about him is everybody talks about how great he is, and I'm still waiting for like a Malik Hooker type of center field, situation, but they had him play more towards the line of scrimmage last year. So, and I assume that's going to be the case this year as well. It's like, maybe I'd like to see him make more plays on the ball in the air, but everywhere else, they do so many different things with him that he makes the defense better, and you may not even understand why or realize it at the time.
And the thing is like with Hooker, I mean, he had to make some of those types of plays. There's not necessarily a case of
they don't beat Michigan the 1 year without his interception. Yeah,
Caleb doesn't have to necessarily make those types of plays, and with corners that they had, I mean, they were in a better position. I think sometimes when you're in a less talented room, and I'm not saying that Hooker was in a less talented room in a lot of regards, but if you have to shine more. But when this year, I think that there might be more of an opportunity, and that's not taking anything away from IGB, and then with what Matthews looks like and what Hartford looks like and some of these other types of situations. But I think that he's going to be in a room that is going to have a little bit of a step back in terms of games played, and he might have to sit there and make some more, have a couple more Herculean type of efforts. But then again, I think Ohio State is going to do just fine, and it's not, last year, how many games did Ohio State truly get into a scoring shootout? Oregon? I mean, and that's Oregon part one. We could sit there and go back to the Michigan game. That wasn't a shootout. That was just Ohio State shooting itself in the foot offensively over and over and over again. Obviously, Notre Dame in the championship game put up some points at the end once Ohio State was up 24. and it took a big offensive play, obviously by J.J. Smith to really kind of put a tourniquet on that one, but there's not a case of where Ohio State is having to go out and win games 35-31 or anything like that. They've been doing a good job of keeping things limited. So, I mean, there's just probably been fewer opportunities for those, memorable highlight reel type of plays that we're going to see on your draft reel the day you're drafted.
I have learned from Google and also now currently AI that it's not always accurate, but one source is always accurate. If you need a date to anything, I'm not talking about a romantic date. I'm talking about if you need a date, need the second type of date here. Jackson has dug this up. How? I don't know. For those tuning into today's edition of Buckeyes Live, this is Kevin Noon's first appearance since Buckeyes Live 264, which aired April 24th of 24. And he did not make that up. I guarantee it.
Well, and probably what happened was that was probably one of the last shows leading into Southern Swing, and then I was gone for Southern Swing, and then I had some things happen in my life, and I just needed to kind of take a break. Bye, Steve. And I had to take a little bit of a break, and now I'm back. I told Mark I was going to be back by July, so I'm a week ahead of schedule. So, I'm not saying that you're fortunate that I'm back by out there in TV land or whatever, but I didn't have anything going today. But I do have a show at 1 and a show at 4 as well, not on my own channel that I'm doing. So I'm talking a lot today. That's what I'm doing.
Well, Steve apparently didn't care to hear about it. So he's out.
He's training for Vegas.
Yes, that's right. A few curls is going to get him ready for an all-nighter.
Yeah,
I guess.
Curling Mick Ultra isn't going to get it done.
And after what you had to say, Kevin, about PJ Fleck, I'm kind of a notorious PJ Fleck fan. I don't know what that says about me, but I'll ponder that.
It means that you're probably just a happy, well-adjusted person. I think that there are a lot of people out there that like him. I find him exhausting. He sucks the soul right out of me. I just can't deal with it. I think it's all fake. And everyone's like, no, it's real. It's real. I'm like, well, I wish it were fake, because nobody needs to be cranked up on Jolt Cola and Pixie Sticks like that.
Well, you just made the point that I need to have substantiated. If it's real, then I'm in. But obviously, if it's fake, then forget it. I can't figure that out. It comes across fake, but for some reason, I don't really think it is.
I think you'd have to be a sociopath to be that fake all the time. Like a serial killer pretending to be, a real person. Like, he's not BTK. I think this is who he is. I think he is.
He might be Dexter.
Well, no. I think this is actually who he is. He's just a lot of energy.
Who are you talking about?
I was going to say Steve has no idea. I would like Steve to guess who we're talking about.
Stephen A? I don't know. Stephen A. Smith? I don't know.
PJ Fleck.
Oh, PJ Fleck. Okay. Well,
No, I do think Stephen A. is a serial killer.
Okay. I don't know why I thought that, because I guess we were talking McShay and ESPN and whatever, but I went on ESPN, and that created what happened to me. I got glitched out somehow. Their site glitched me out. And the only reason I went there is because I wanted to double check and make sure, but Caleb Downs intercepted a pass in the Michigan game. And it's kind of like the Jack Sawyer interception on the goal line, which would go down as one of the greatest plays in Ohio State history had Ohio State actually won the game and gone on to the Big Ten championship game. I think people would regard that as one of the greatest plays. People are like waiting on Downs to do this or do that. Well, in the biggest game of the regular season, he made a big play, and it's been forgotten because they lost the game. But he's there when the money's on the line, when the money's in the middle of the table. He's there. That's all that matters.
Yeah, so Caleb Downs can thank Jaden Fielding for messing up his moment, because wasn't that followed up by
missed the chip
field
shot.
goal? Yeah.
Missed the chip shot, yeah.
By the way, Jaden Fielding, senior, could be at Big Ten Media Days.
No, hey, don't do that to me. I don't cover special teams. I don't talk to any of those people. Here's the thing. you get beyond Jeremiah Smith and a couple, 2-3 other of the guys, there's not a lot of traffic on anything the players really have to say. So, the fans are kind of finicky when it comes to talking to the players. It's got to be somebody who moves the needle a little bit.
Well,
so
camp starts when we get back, so that we can't even use that stuff. Like we're not even going to be using much of this stuff.
Very, very short shelf life. If smoke it while you got them, you're not going to be able to use a lot of it. I mean, you got to be smart with the questions you ask and get some stuff that's going to be evergreen. Because it is a very short turnaround.
Yeah.
Jackson, thank you so much for the super chat. We appreciate Jackson, of course, manning the chat as he always does. And you can catch Jackson more than occasionally on the Paul Feinbaum show. He's a frequent caller there and drops a few truth bombs in there to promote the voice of college football when he can. So, Jackson, thank you for that.
Fighting
Kevin,
the
welcome
good
back
fight.
to Buckeyes Live. We missed you.
Glad to be back. I've been meaning for a couple months, but I just wanted to wait until I felt like I could give it 70%, and that's how bad I was feeling about things prior. I couldn't even give it 70%, so that was kind of, none of us are ever going to be able to be at 100. It is what it is. We're all busy. We got schedules and everything else, but I needed to be about 70%. But I don't plan on dipping out for an extended period of time now. If I'm not on 1 week, don't be like, oh, there goes noon again. Good old undependable noon. But I plan on being back for the duration.
I'm glad to run into somebody who does not believe in that 100% myth either. Always like this, give 100%. I gave 100%. No, you didn't. It doesn't exist. It's not possible to give 100%.
It's difficult.
Just 60 minutes is a marathon, not a sprint.
Garrison, yes, this guy's going to be key, I believe. What are your expectations for Bo Atkinson?
Well, he steps in as the most accomplished pass rusher that they have, even though he hasn't done it at Ohio State. He's got more sacks than anybody wearing an Ohio State uniform. So, yeah, I think you're counting on him to come in and continue doing what he does best, and that's apply pressure to the opposing quarterback and bring him to the ground. So it's not an indictment of anybody else that they have, but it takes a village, and you do need 3 or 4 good pass rushers to get through a season. And I think that they did bolster that position. I think Logan George showed a lot in the spring game, even though we can debate the merits of the touch sack and would he have actually tackled those quarterbacks in those situations. But I think you got to like the direction the pass rush is going. And Atkinson, Tony, I'm sure, did you do a video mashup of him? And what did you find when you went through the video from North Carolina of what his biggest skills were, I guess?
Well, I think one thing to keep in mind, so he had 7.5 sacks last year and 12 tackles for loss. 5.5 of his 7.5 sacks came in the middle of the season at Virginia and at Florida State. He had a sack against James Madison and a sack in a bowl game against Connecticut. So, this is just a concentrated amount of production. He's a rotational guy. He started 1 game last year, which I think is surprising when you look at the numbers. So there's so much of his production came in a small window, of his 12.5 tackles for loss, or his 12 tackles for loss, 9 of them came in the Florida State, Virginia, and James Madison games. So what is he over the course of a full season? He's big, he's athletic. I don't know what to expect, really. He is the most experienced guy, or the most productive, I'd say, certainly, because I think his 7.5 sacks last year is more than Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry have combined for in their careers, or it's more than Kenyatta Jackson has in his career. But I think what you're going to have is you've got 5 guys that are all 4th-year players playing defensive end, and I think you're going to see a pretty even rotation initially, and then whoever's the most productive will play more, and then the 5 will move to a 4, and then maybe move to a 3, unless it stays 5 all year long, because 1, they're all good, or 2, nobody has stepped up. So I think there are questions, there are concerns, but he's played big time football and he's done well at times. But that's just a lot of words to say. I think Kenyatta Jackson is starting. Wouldn't be surprised if Bo Atkinson starts on the other side, but I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to have 7.5 sacks and 12 tackles for loss this year for Ohio State.
Yeah, I think that expectations should be positive, but I think they should also be tempered. You just don't know. I mean, we see transfers go from school to school, and sometimes they go and they excel, and sometimes it doesn't necessarily work out. But I had the chance during Southern Swing to talk to some coaches in North Carolina who were very complimentary of Bo Atkinson and said that it was probably one of the biggest transfer moves of the offseason, and certainly one of the biggest off the radar ones in terms of a national type of perspective. But you just don't know. I mean, what I don't know the North Carolina line situation last year well enough to know who was lining up opposite of him, things of that nature. Will lining up with Kenyatta Jackson allow him some more free run type of situations? What is Matt Patricia's strategy calling a defense? Is it going to be more contain? Is it going to be more go after the quarterback? I think that's the biggest determining factor, is how Ohio State really approaches using its pass rushers. I mean, I think we saw a change from the start of the season leading through that Oregon game, and then beyond. There were some changes in terms of cage and things like that, of how they were going about doing things. So does Ohio State, know who it is early in the season, and do they get a whole year to build on it, or do they have to make adjustments at 35,000 feet?
Kevin, what are you working on this week?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I just put up a piece from a 20-minute view at Buckeyes of all of the items that you're probably not talking about. No jerky bar, no brisket tacos, no beaver nuggets. That was a big piece that I did. I took shots at everybody that I knew, including our little friend, the Murph star, Pat Murphy. I took multiple shots at him.
Little Murph star.
I guess he hasn't seen the piece yet where I talked about him being short in stature. But, I think right now it's just a matter of kind of monitoring where things are going with recruiting and everything else. I think that as we get a little bit closer to Big Ten Media Days, there are all the July pieces that start to be, you start writing where you look at, you look at the conference, you look at top players, you look at top games, things of that nature. Somebody's got to write it. It may as well be me, because Tony is much more creative and comes up with better stories than I do. So I'll write the pieces that are supposed to be written.
Good segue to you, Tony.
So yeah, I started a 50-day daily thing in the countdown to Big Ten Media Days, and I'm on like day 20 something. Just every day there's something to look forward to from Ohio State fans' perspective. There's an Ohio State prediction, a top matchup involving an Ohio State player, top national game to look forward to, a Big Ten prediction, and national prediction. So you can find that at Buckeye Huddle every day. I've not done it yet today, but and then the most recent episode of the Buckeye Weekly podcast, I took like 6 or 7 of those predictions, Ohio State predictions, and we discussed them and the likelihood and of that happening and what it would mean if it did. So you can find all of that wherever you find the internet.
And Steve, before we get to you, that's my recent Buckeyes post. So heard all the great things about Buckeyes. I now live within like a half mile of a Buckeyes. And my first 2 experiences, great. I couldn't believe it. The first time I walked in the place with a couple guys, it was like midnight and there were 100 people in there. I couldn't believe it. And I couldn't believe it was like a mall. The first time I just thought this is an oversized gas station. No, it's not. And so everything was fine. The barbecue, the fudge, whatever I had the first couple trips. But I needed Buckeyes to come through for me a couple weeks ago. I'm trying to eat clean. It's coming off the rails from time to time, but I have my nice 3-day stretches, and then I go to Buckeyes on a Sunday night at like 1 a.m. I grab the big barbecue sandwich. It was like a triple deal, and it was nothing but gristle and fat, and it was disgusting and falling apart, and the bun was all soggy, and it ruined my night.
You don't want to eat you don't want to eat like the 1 p.m. egg McMuffin. I mean, how many clean briskets are they pulling out of the cooker at that point? I mean,
I needed them then.
I no, I get it. I get it. I mean, I don't know what eating clean is. I've never known what eating clean is. So I'm not going to
experience with that.
I'm not going to pretend that I know on that stuff, but
Means non-processed, and yeah, it's a
No,
struggle
I-
for
no,
me.
I-
I'm eating clean, but I've eaten 2 half gallons of ice cream in the last 2 days. So that's my, it's gone off. When I say it's gone off the rails, it's gone off the rails. So yeah, I eat just like the three of you, but I've got a best friend who it's unbelievable what he eats. It's incredible. Like I take photos at the grocery store of things that I think are extremely healthy. And he's like, no, you don't want to eat that. It's got, see that 14th item down there, that additive. No, it's I can't keep up with him. So, but I'm trying.
Mark, your point on the brisket is my entire problem. My biggest problem with barbecue is that they will throw that in, like throw that out. Don't include that. They're all there chopping and they're pulling, and they see like this is just a fistful of fat. Well, not my problem. Somebody's gonna have to pay for that. Like, get that stuff out of there. If you really want to have quality like that, that is why prime rib is a terrible cut of meat. Like that is a pointless thing because it's all gristle. And any steak with gristle is like just it's not you're not even supposed to eat it. Cavemen would be like, here, feed it to the dogs. That's how they domesticated animals, by feeding them prime rib, because animals would eat it.
No,
I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to take food advice from a guy that eats chicken nuggies all the time.
No, yeah. I'm absolutely right about prime rib.
Have you no decency, sir?
You never know if you're going to get a good cut.
Gristle in the fat. You need some of that. It just can't be 80% of the sandwich.
Mr. Chairman, can I reclaim my time? The gentleman from Ohio is.
But you never know what you're going to get. You never know what you're going to get in terms of ordering prime rib. The good stuff is good, but what am I supposed to do with the rest of it? Like, why can't I get an entire thing that I can eat instead of just like, well, it's marbleized.
He doesn't eat. He eats boneless chicken wings, which are not wing meat. Not
Again,
bone.
Here's another thing. Another item where you get to eat the entire thing. Oh, I'm crazy because I want a piece of food that you can eat the entire thing of.
Well, like, I don't fall into the trick of going to a steakhouse and getting the 36-ounce bone-in Kansas City strip and 28 ounces of it's the bone or whatever. I understand certain things about knowing what is the edible part of a cut or something like that, but
I don't have a problem with bone-in steak. Don't even accuse me of that. Who are you?
I mean, I think they'll render the bone down when you get it well done.
Merits of eating prime rib. I got to add that to what we talked about today.
Yeah.
You didn't ask me what I've been working on, but I got a hold of the great Ronaldo Perez from Columbus Academy, 2027 defensive end. He attended 4 of the 5 one-day camps, and he was conspicuous by his absence on day 5. And as I came to find out, I think his football team was doing a community service day that day, and so he couldn't be there. But I had a really great interview with him, and he talked about why he did that to come and show Larry Johnson that he deserved to get an offer, and he finally did after the 4th camp day. So I would think, again, he can't sign for 18 months. I don't think he is ready to commit. And he actually went down to Florida for recruiting day right after that as well. So I think Florida is another school that Ronaldo Perez might look at. But I have a hard time believing, after attending 4 camp days at Ohio State and snagging that offer, that you don't work that hard, 8 hours in the hot sun, to get that offer and not take it. So I think one day we'll probably see Ronaldo Perez suited up in the scarlet and gray, and that doesn't bother me a bit. He looks very good on the hoof. So check that out at bucknuts.com. I did catch up with him after he got his offer. Otherwise, just working on some other basketball stuff. There's a big tournament this weekend. Not really a tournament, an event up in Sandusky with all the 140 high school teams, a lot of top prospects. Akron Hoban is actually going to be there, which I don't know if Sam Greer will be there with his basketball team or not, but it seems like 20 years ago when Sam Greer was on the basketball team at Akron Hoban and they won the state championship, but he will be up there. Presumably, we'll see if he's there. I'll check in with him if he's up there. If you haven't had a chance to see it, just Google Sam Greer and the Rivals showdown yesterday, because he is doing a pass block, and this poor kid's trying to spin move and this and that and the other, and he stands up, and Sam Greer with both his hands just takes him and shoves him down, like, hit your ass on the ground. So he was named one of the MVPs, and then the defensive lineman who they just got, what is
Corey
his?
Wilder.
Yeah, Corey Wilder. He was named as one of the MVPs of the camp as well. So very good to see those two Ohio State commits doing really well.
Jackson, I have not forgotten your super chat. We will catch it in a future episode, maybe not quite as a historic episode as number 325. I don't know, a random one. I don't know,
Yeah.
500 maybe, something like that.
The storm siren just blew, so it is the top of the hour.
It is the top of
Yep.
the hour. Steve
Yeah.
has alerted us. All right, for Kevin, for Tony, for Steve. Kevin, great to have you back. We will see you next week, everyone, on Buckeyes Live. In the meantime, catch these three.